July 5th, and we're going to read Jeremiah chapter 22, verses 13 through 30. And I do want to take a moment to just go through some timeline issues. I myself get very confused, and I'm dealing with these texts and these kings probably maybe a little bit more regularly than you are, and I myself get confused, and I think even at times I may have even said the wrong king at different times. In fact, I did know I said it yesterday incorrectly. So let me just run through this timeline. This one is absolutely correct because I went through and made sure on some of these kings. So the guys that I've underlined are your kings of Judah. So you got Josiah, Jehoahaz. I said I thought they were absolutely correct. Misspelled that one. Jehoahaz, then Jehoiakim, then Jehoiachin, then Zedekiah. Both Jehoahaz and Jehoiachin had a very, very short reign. They did not rule very long. So Josiah is killed by the Egyptian king. Jehoahaz becomes king for 3 months. Well, when Necho returns, he doesn't like the fact that Jehoahaz is king, and so he, as a way of just displaying, hey, I'm in charge, he takes Jehoahaz as prisoner to Egypt, and then he makes Jehoiakim king. Now, Jehoiakim reigns for 3 years, and during those 3 years, Babylon keeps getting stronger and stronger, and then he rebels against Babylon. And that is when Nebuchadnezzar then comes in and invades. For the first time, it's a lesser invasion, but during that time, all the young, all the strong people of Jerusalem is taken away captive. He allows Jehoiakim to continue reigning, but he takes all of the best and the brightest off to Babylon, and that would be the time when Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are taken away into captivity. Then time goes on. Jehoiakim dies, and his son Jehoiachin, isn't that great that they just sound so close together? Jehoiachin becomes king, but he is only king for a very short time. Another name for him is Coniah, which we'll see in the text today. He is only king for a very short time. He invades, or he rebels against Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar comes and attacks him and puts Zedekiah, makes Zedekiah king. So in a sense, Zedekiah is kind of a puppet type king over Judah. But during this second invasion, that is when the prophet Ezekiel, which you would be familiar with, was taken away as captive to Babylon. And then finally in 586, Zedekiah then will rebel against Babylon a third time. And this time Nebuchadnezzar has had enough. He comes down and he absolutely, completely destroys the city, burns the temple down, and then takes more captives away to Babylon. So really, there was 3 invasions that happened to the city of Jerusalem, and you would think that through the ministry of Jeremiah, they would realize it's not going to end well for us. We just need to surrender, and we need to not keep holding on to what God has clearly told us we're not to be holding on to, but they don't, and it ends in complete destruction in 586 BC. So there's your timeline real quick. I'll probably bring that out a couple more times just to maybe get that in your head. So that you maybe have that semi-memorized, or at least you can kind of follow a little bit better as you're working through Jeremiah. I've got to be honest, coming into the book of Jeremiah, I definitely did not have these kings memorized. I definitely was not like very familiar with Jehoiakim. I couldn't tell you the story of Jehoiakim just off the top of my head if you just kind of passed me in the halls and said, hey, Josh, tell me about King Jehoiakim. I couldn't do that. Now I can, because we've just spent so much time in the book of Jeremiah, and then in some of the confrontations that Jeremiah had with him. And so this has just strengthened my own understanding and even memorization of who these kings are. So anyway, I hope you have a similar experience. I know, as pastor, I'm spending much more time with it, and I'm a little bit more familiar with with these people and their stories coming into the book of Jeremiah. But I hope you find yourself, by the time we end this summer study of Jeremiah, that some of these things are a little bit more entrenched in your head and in your brain. But let's get into the reading, because it's been 5 minutes and we've not even started reading yet. Woe to him who builds his house by unrighteousness. That's a good word. Don't attempt to get ahead by unrighteous gain. And his upper rooms by injustice. Upper rooms, second story. Most people would only have a one-story house. If they're building upper rooms, then that means they have gotten ahead. They've arrived, if you will. They've got a second-story house, but it would be terrible if they're getting ahead by injustice. Here's another way. By making his neighbor serve him for nothing, essentially making bad deals and not really giving his neighbor what he should, and essentially kind of shortcutting and undercutting his neighbor so he can get ahead, and does not give him his wages. In fact, he says, "Oh, will you do this for me? I'll pay you $20. I'll pay you $500. I'll pay you $1,500 for this job. You do it." They do the job, come back and say, I think I'm only going to give you $1,200, and really undercutting and not giving his neighbor the wages that he deserves. Who says, "I will build myself a great house with spacious upper rooms." Again, here's the sin. I'm going to get ahead. I'm going to give myself great prosperity at the expense of my neighbors. And we know that's wrong, right? Because Jesus says the second great commandment, which is like to the first, we shall love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We should not be putting ourselves first. We should not be selfish. We should be seeing our neighbors prosper even before we seek it out for ourselves. Who cuts out windows for it. So it's not just a two-story house. It's got great windows. It's paneling with cedar, which would have been a big deal back then, and painting it with vermilion. Do you think you are a king because you compete in cedar? Okay, now we know. We're talking about this king. We're talking about the king of Judah. Did not your father eat and drink and do justice and righteousness? Then it was well with him. He judged the cause of the poor and needy. Then it was well. Your father did what was right, did what was good, and it was well with him. Is not this to know me, declares the Lord, that is, to judge the cause of the poor and needy correctly? But you have eyes and heart only for your dishonest gain, for shedding innocent blood, and for practicing oppression and violence. Now, the person that Jeremiah is talking to is Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah. He's saying Josiah did what right, but King Jehoiakim, you did not. You're doing what is wrong. You're doing what is incorrect. You have eyes and hearts. You have an eye and a heart only for your own dishonest gain. You're trying to get ahead yourself at the expense of your neighbors, at the expense of your friends and all those around you. So this is not an example that we should follow. The example that we should follow is that of Christ, that of God, who Jesus emptied himself of everything he had. He emptied himself and became a man. He emptied himself by adding to himself human flesh. He degraded himself by putting on humanity, by putting on a human body. And he did that so that we could prosper, so that he would essentially die the death of a cross, so that we could be saved and be with him forever. Let us not have eyes and hearts for dishonest gain. Again, he's talking to King Jehoiakim, and this is what God says concerning him. They shall not lament for him, saying, "Ah, my brother," or "Ah, sister." They shall not lament for him, saying, "Ah, Lord," or "Ah, his majesty." With the burial of a donkey he shall be buried, dragged and dumped beyond the gates of Jerusalem. Go up to Lebanon and cry out, and lift up your voice in Bashan and cry out from Abarim. So what this is kind of another one of those geographical kind of making a circle. If you go up, you would find the mountains of Lebanon. Then you go to the right, go to the east, I guess, if you will. I guess I'm probably backwards because I'm going to my east. But you go over to the east and you would see then the mountains of Bashan, a fertile area. And then at the bottom of that would be a famous mountain, at least in that time, Abiram, being at the bottom of the Bashan area. For all your lovers are destroyed. So it's essentially, this is a place that's a little far removed from Jerusalem, far removed from Israel. Go up to these places and cry out. Whine, if you will. Be upset. Your lovers are destroyed. I spoke to you in your prosperity, but you said, I will not listen King Jehoiakim, you're doing well. I tried to speak to you, but you chose not to listen to me. And that the attitude that we need to change, the attitude that we need to make sure that we have, is an attitude of listening to the Lord. This has been your way from your youth, that you have not obeyed my voice. The wind shall shepherd all your shepherds, and your lovers shall go into captivity. Then you shall be ashamed and confounded because of all your evil. O inhabitant of Lebanon, nested among the cedars. You're there in this protective place. You're nested upon the cedars. How you will be pitted with when pangs come upon you. Pain as of a woman in child, or a woman in labor. So you are nested in there, and then this sudden destruction, this sudden pain is coming upon you. As I live, declares the Lord, though Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, so this is another word for Jehoiachin, the son of Jehoiakim. Remember Jehoiachin, if I go up here, rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar, and that is what brought about the second invasion. Though Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet on my ring, on my right hand, yet I would tear you off. So even if you were this very special ring on my right hand, I would rip it off. I'd tear you off and give you into the hand of those who seek you. Even if this is something very special, like my wedding ring, supposed to keep it on. He says, even if that's what you are, I would still rip you off and throw you into the hand of those of whom you are afraid, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and into the hand of the Chaldeans. Remember, Chaldeans are the people group that makes up the kingdom of Babylon. I will hurl you and the mother who bore you into another country where you were not born, and there you shall die. Again, here is the consequences of their sin. God is actually making a promise. I'm not sure why I made that red. It should be blue. This is the promise that God is making to the people of Judah. I'm going to hurl you into another country. The promise is that God will not, he will not let evil endure. He is going to punish evil. God is going to right all things that are wrong. That's the promise that he's made to you. And that is a very dreadful day. It's a very exonerating day. It's a day that all things are made right. But it's a very bitter, painful day, because there's a lot of destruction and there's a lot of pain that's going to come. And so, of course, this is often termed the day of the Lord. This is the day that the Lord brings ultimate judgment. And those that have not accepted the forgiveness of Jesus Christ will go off into eternity to experience an eternal damnation in hell. What a terrible thing that is. And the offer is always there. Come to me and I will forgive you. But to the land to which they will long to return, there they shall not return. They want to come back, but they're not going to be able to. Is this man Coniah? This is Jehoiachin. Is he a despised broken pot, a vessel no one cares for? Why are he and his children hurled and cast into a land they do not know? Well, why is this happening? O land, 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 hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord. Here's why. Write this man down as childless, a man who shall not succeed in his days. For none of his offspring shall succeed in sitting on the throne of David and ruling again in Judah. Okay, it didn't explain it right there. But we know why. Why are they being hurled? Because they've disobeyed the Lord. They've not done what is right. They have not kept the old covenant. God made an agreement with Israel, and they have not kept it, and this is their consequences. And here is the promise. None of the offspring of Jehoiachin shall sit on the throne of David, ruling again in Judah. In fact, the ultimate king that they need ruling in Jerusalem is Jesus. That is from the offspring of David. Jesus will come later on when there's another nation in power, the Roman Empire. Jesus is going to come. He's going to do everything right as his great grandfather David should have done. He's going to do everything right as all the kings in Jerusalem should have done. He did it right, and he would ultimately die on an old rugged cross, taking the punishment of the sins of the world on himself. And so, yes, the promise is there will not be any of those kings to sit on the throne of David. But here comes the ultimate king, Jesus Christ, who will rule the entire earth as the real and the true son of David, as the true king of the entire world. I pray that has been a blessing to you, and I'll see you in the next video.